Hey athletes, Dr. Paige here. So I'm talking about sports trauma again. And very specifically, I'm talking about the trauma response of fawning. So as athletes, we are trained to appease and please our coaches and our parents and even our teammates and those around us. And so what begins to happen is we start to become like empaths and kind of like energy detectors. So the moment that we get done with a play or get done with a race or done with a performance, we're like looking to our parents or looking to our coaches to see how we performed or their reaction, right? We're going to get a good reaction, a bad reaction, or are they going to be happy, or are they going to criticize us, or they're going to ridicule us, or they're going to give a shitty look, right? So we're really trained to fawn, and it's actually a trauma response. And over time, this begins to inhibit your performance because eventually, as an athlete, particularly when you start to get out of high school and into college and professional sports, you can't please everybody, right? There's always haters out there. You're always going to get trolls and whatever else you want to say. There's always going to be something negative that's said about you. And we just know that. That's just how people are. But we can't always make our coaches happy either. And sometimes there's personality classes, sometimes there's our parents' stuff where they didn't reach a high level of performance, so they're like projecting it onto us that we need to reach a high level of performance or whatever that looks like. So it will start to inhibit you over time. And it actually helps us shift into the other trauma responses as well, which is not good. It inhibits us mostly because we want to stay in the alpha flow state, which is kind of the middle of our brain waves, in the middle of our nervous system. So that flexibility between a little sympathetic, a little parasympathetic. Sympathetic nervous state is that fight, flight, freezing, fawny state, right? And so we can shift into those other ones. Freezing being where we're not able to, like with yips and bulking and some of that stuff, we're not able to execute the skills that we've been doing forever and that we should be able to do in our sleep. And then the fight, which essentially we get really aggressive and we're like having to force things. We get really angry. We lose our tempers, especially in combat sports or even hockey. You get into fights, and you see it on the football field, the basketball court sometimes too. But regardless, we really don't want to get stuck on in that sympathetic nervous system state. And we really don't want to have to be those energy detectors or empaths and trying to see how we're appeasing and pleasing others around us. It will inhibit us. It is not optimized energy. So with trauma responses, with sports trauma, with life adversities, with shitty feedback from coaches and all those things, we begin to stay stuck on in that sympathetic nervous system state, therefore not able to stay in alpha flow state and not able to pop into that parasympathetic nervous system state, which is that rest and recovery, right? And where we're able to drop into REM sleep, have those dreams, work out emotions at night. And so what we want to do with that is actually reprocess all the times that we had been criticized harshly, times when we didn't feel like we performed optimally, other aspects of our life, like the life adversities when we feel like we didn't do well, we didn't get good feedback, whether it had been back in school or in college or any minor league teams, whatever that looks like. But we must reprocess these things and desensitize our nervous system to the potential of the coach reacting or saying that we did a poor performance or whatever the reaction is going to be, so that we're not always on that hypervigilant, worried that the coach is going to say something bad or wrong. Because again, we want to stay in alpha flow. We do not want to be in this fawning response. And so it's really interesting because I find that high performers and athletes, perfectionists, all that, we tend to be more of those detectives and empaths around individuals because we do. We want to appease them. We want to please. We want to succeed. That's just who we are. But it is not sustainable. So eventually you have to own your performance, not care what everyone else around you thinks. And by doing the alpha imprinting or the reprocessing of all the bad side shit that's ever happened, life and in sports, and then desensitizing to what others may say, a poor performance, what we've seen other athletes go through, what we've seen other athletes get a reaction, a bad reaction from the press, from, coaches, whatever that looks like, so that we own our performance. We do not shift into that fawning trauma response, and we stay in alpha flow state all the time. And it really is liberating and really freeing when you truly don't care what anyone else thinks. I mean, that is the essence of really being free and really being happy, is when you stop caring what other people think. And, I've even had to do this, obviously, as an athlete, high performer, even in my business, being in the sports world as a female, and obviously doing really different things in the sports world and sports psychology, because I don't do the stuff that's 50 years old. I do the neuroscience-based, most cutting-edge shit. And I have faced a lot of criticism for it, but I really don't care. And so I want everyone out there to be able to shift into that I really don't care, and owning their performance, owning their gifts, owning their genius zone. And how you do that is the 12-week reprocessing desensitization process of alpha imprinting, so that you will own your own performance, not care what anyone else thinks, and be able to stay in that alpha flow state and perform optimally. No more trauma responses. All they're going to do is inhibit you. They literally, when we go into that sympathetic nervous system state, it tightens the neuromotor sheath around our brain and our spine, so it inhibits movement, it slows our reaction time. And again, it pops us in that sympathetic, so we don't sleep well, we don't recover, we get more overuse injuries, we're more susceptible to injury, we don't sleep well, we're not detoxing the brain and all that kind of stuff. So when we're in, contact sports or sports where we could potentially hit our head, we don't want to have any neuroinflammation residual around sports concussions and so on. So we have to be popping into that parasympathetic nervous system state so we can actually detox and have that full recovery at night. Because in sympathetic nervous system state, there is cortisol, that's inflammatory, that's neuroinflammation, that's gut inflammation, that's brain inflammation. And again, that fawning, where we're always trying to please everyone else and fill out to see if the coach is happy, too bad. You got to own your performance and be happy with your performance, because your way to success is not replicatable. You cannot do what some other athlete did to get to success. You have to go your own way. And I don't care how many coaches sit there and go, well, this is what I've always done with my athletes. Well, you got to do it this way, this way. It's not replicatable. Success, the optimal, number one in the world, is always going to be your way and owning your performance. So if you're ready to take your performance to the next level, get out of trauma responses, stay in alpha flow, comment alpha below, and we will book you a 30-minute consult and talk about what the program entails. And yeah, and all the success you can gain.